Hey guys. Whew, okay, it's 11:37, so I'm early. I have a lot of questions this week. Guys, never shortage of questions, so thank you. I also have a little little dachshund that I'm puppy sitting, and my brother's picking her up soon, so I wanted to do this and not get cut off and be able to answer all our questions. So I'm going to start from the top. We're just going to have at it. Anyone who misses this, always, you can go back and watch the recording. If you're watching the recording, know that if you ask any questions in the comments or otherwise, I will always go back and look at them. So even if you're watching the recording, please ask your questions if you have them. Lots of questions this week. So Melissa, I'm going to start with yours. She asked, what do you say to riders who do their own thing? If you are doing a climb and they're sprinting, for example. So I know that this is fairly annoying. It happens to all of us. I think especially riders that just want to come in and use the bikes. Because if you guys work at a gym, you'll probably notice that there's not a lot of spinning type bikes or any of the upright good cycling bikes out on the floor. They're expensive. They usually only order the amount that they need for the spin room. So this is common that people will come in, it's during a class time because those are the peak times, right? And they just want to do their own thing. They want to train, they want to whatever, who knows? It's going to be inevitable. No matter how good your class is, you're going to have those people who don't participate in everything that you do. Remember that it's their class at the end of the day. In my opinion, and this will change, but if it isn't disruptive to the other riders and it's not dangerous, just let them do it. It's frustrating, I get it, but if they're sitting in the back, so that might be something that you want to suggest. If this is someone, and I have someone who does this, repeat offender, sits in the front row and doesn't participate in any of what we're actually doing in class. Now, the thing is, she doesn't bother anyone. She doesn't like to come out of the saddle, which is common. She's a little bit older. Her knees aren't as good as they used to be, she tells me, so she doesn't like to come out of the saddle. She doesn't like to go too fast. So pretty much she's just on a light hill the whole class, and she just does her own thing. She's not bothering anyone else. Not everyone has to be in sync. That's okay. So I let her do it. It's totally going to be up to you. If it distracts you as an instructor and you're not able to deliver the class that you want to deliver, then you're probably going to need to say something, because otherwise it's going to affect everyone in the class. And again, like I said, if it gets dangerous, if they're doing something that's not something that should be done on a bike, at least in your opinion, you need to let them know. So I know it's frustrating, but sometimes we gotta just let them do their thing unless it's, like I said, disruptive or dangerous. Now, again, that's my personal opinion. If you really get annoyed with this and it affects, like I said, how you teach, you need to say something. Be polite, be respectful, maybe even mention it to your manager before you say something so that they can give you the clear okay to do so. But it's really going to be up to instructors how they handle that kind of situation. So that's how I would handle it. Okay, so next question. Matthew asked about group fitness certifications. We've never had this asked before, so thank you, Matthew, for asking it. He asked, if I plan on teaching indoor cycling, would a group fitness cert help me teach better indoor cycling classes? So this is, you mentioned I could DM you the answer to this if it wasn't good for Hoerner Happy Hour. I think it is great. So first and foremost, I think any continuing education that we do has to be intentional. A lot of people, especially in the personal training world, which is another world that I'm part of, they tend to get certifications just for the sake of adding things to their resume. And I get that. But if it's not adding value, if you're just rushing through the course, clicking through everything, taking the test, and that's it, you're not getting the value out of it. What's the point, right? We want to get better. That's why we do these things. So if there's something, what I always do before I take any course, and it's been a while since I've taken a group fitness specific one, but you can request, so maybe ACE or AFAA, check in with one of those, request the actual table of contents to the study materials. They'll always provide that, and you can get a sense for what you're going to learn in that course. So maybe you want to get better at something that's a little bit more general to group fitness in general, like leadership or how to have like an inclusive experience for everyone while still challenging them. Things like that that are a little bit more high level, but still very important. That's something that you could get out of a group fitness cert. But it depends, like I said, on what you want to work on as an instructor. So make sure that you're not just taking this certification just to take it. And you asked the right question. You said, how would it help me teach better indoor cycling classes? That's a great question. Answer that yourself. So what do you need to get better at? If, like I said, anything in the table of contents or the training materials for these courses are things that you want to work on, then it could end up being great. But just make sure you're getting value out of it, right? I think it's such a common trend for certifications or schooling in general. A lot of people go back just to get certain credentials and they're not actually learning anything. They're not actually taking it and applying it. And I really don't get the point of that. So just make sure there's intention there, as we always say with our riders too, right? We want them to be intentional about their goals and fitness, etc. So hopefully that was helpful. Mary asked a couple of questions. The first one, she was talking about how she went to a class for a full, so Mary had a new class on Wednesdays, and she was trying to fill it, trying to get people in it. So she went to another instructor on Saturday. Good job, Mary, for checking out another instructor to see, what he was doing that maybe she could do to attract more riders. And she was saying how they pretty much stayed in the saddle the whole time, didn't really change positions, adding resistance here or there, but otherwise not that much change. And she was wondering, she said it seems pretty boring, why is he getting so many people? Why is he getting a full class? So a few things here. First of all, a Saturday 8:30 class is, at least at our studio, like one of the prime times you can have as an instructor. So a lot of that is timing related. Now, that being said, a good instructor will attract people no matter what time they're teaching. And likewise, a terrible instructor is going to deter people no matter what time they're teaching. So he has to have something good about him, right? I will also say that teaching a class where there isn't a lot of movement, a lot of distraction, and again, I'm all for that if it's in a safe way, but teaching something where you're not really moving around and the sole focus is on the form, the technique, maybe he focused on power or specific resistance, that is extremely hard to do to keep people engaged. So kudos to him for getting people to love his class just by doing that. That means he's a good instructor. Keeping things like the music, like you said, I think you said he used the same music the whole time. If you think about how hard it would be to teach a class where it's the same song, you're not moving out of the saddle, you're staying seated, how you would keep people engaged, I mean, that would be difficult, right? So he knows what he's doing if he's making it work. There's a lot of things you can focus on when you're just doing that. You can focus on form, you can focus on training with power and heart rate and really get them into interval training and things like that. So I wouldn't say that just because it seems boring and he's not really moving around, he's not changing too much, that doesn't mean it's not a good class, and that doesn't mean there isn't a demographic for that kind of class. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean it's bad or good, it's just different. And I would also ask Mary how long he's been teaching there, because maybe it took a while to build a following, and maybe now he has those people who like that kind of class, but maybe when he started, he was just like you. He was figuring out how to build it. So don't get discouraged just because he's there and you're not there. He's on a totally different path, a totally different journey as an instructor, and you'll find your own, you'll get there. And that leads me into your other question. So I know that you lost your class on Wednesday. And I know that's frustrating, especially because you had finally gotten your numbers to a good spot last week. And you guys don't know the backstory of this. Mary had emailed me about it. But I do think that this kind of thing will happen. And what I thought about, Mary, that I think will be helpful for you, and before I even get there, I am going to email you about this, and I wanted to open it up to everyone in case you guys are interested. But I am going to start doing a mentorship program of sorts for newer instructors. It's going to be 3 months long, a lot of phone calls with me, a lot of critiquing and reviewing and trying to really make you the best you can be. I know a lot of you struggle with confidence, and I know a lot of you know that there are things you need to get better at, but you don't really know what that is. we will work on that. I think 3 months is the perfect amount of time to do that. So Mary, I was going to offer that up to you. Be one of my beta testers. And if anyone else is interested, I'd love to get you in there. Just shoot me an email or a direct message on Facebook. We can get you set up. But I'm thinking of starting that soon so I could test it out for future people. And if you want to be one of my beta testers, I'd love that. Anyways, Mary, what I was going to say to you, I think what we need to remember as instructors, whether you lose your class or you're just not really building numbers the way you want to, whatever it is where you feel like you're losing a little bit of steam, you're getting discouraged, remember that, first of all, this is a journey. Like I said, it's going to take some time to find the right people, the right way you want to teach, finding your confidence. It takes time, right? It takes time to build numbers, build a class. When it comes to where you teach, I know you guys know there are 1,000,001 different kinds of cycling studios out there, and you probably have your preference, right? You probably wouldn't want to teach at, maybe you don't ever want to teach the way SoulCycle teaches, but you love the way that old school spinning is, and that's the kind of thing you want to do, or maybe vice versa. Whatever it is, we all kind of have our preferences, right? I think it's important to remember that when you're going in for a new job, a new class, you're interviewing the studio or the gym just as much as they're interviewing you, right? It's the same thing as any job. You have to want to work there. You have to be excited about the kind of class you can teach, the people that are coming, being able to build the way you want to build, what you can do, the management team you're going to work with, the people that are going to be working side by side with you, your peers, your other instructors. And I think it's important to remember that, because when we go for, maybe you're moving or maybe you're new, when you're trying to find a new place to teach, you have to jive with it, right? Like, you have to feel comfortable there. You have to feel like you can grow. You have to feel like they have your back and they're supporting you and that they're teaching the way that you want to be teaching. So just keep that in mind, because as we go into the future, cycling has only diversified more. There are so many different things you can do, different kind. You could do a combo class, like a boot camp and cycling. You could do things that are more choreographed. You could do traditional. God knows what they're going to come up with next. I can only imagine, but we have to know what we want to teach, what gets us excited, and that's what you have to find. So Mary, you will find something else. You will find something that suits you, and we'll get you there. We'll get you there. I promise. Okay, I think we only have, 2 more questions. Oh my God, I can't feel my legs, this dog. Not that heavy, but everything's falling asleep. Sorry, baby. Okay, so we have Martin's question next. So Martin said, our bikes don't have meters. I'll be adding heart rate zones to my profiles to help the riders gauge their efforts. I love that. Is there a standard somewhere? What proportion of the total class should we work in zone 1 to 5? Okay, so there's so much there. There's so much to heart rate training. Martin, I would just do your research. You could go on heartzones.com. That's a good place to start. A lot of good articles on there. I know Cycling Fusion has a course. I'm pretty sure most certifications go over heart rate training a little bit, so you could go back into what your certification, if you have one, what your certification tells you. A lot of this is just getting comfortable with it and understanding it on your own. But in terms of the breakdown of a class, so I wouldn't say, and I'm not an expert on this, I'm just going to tell you my experience. I wouldn't say it's like a, 10% in, zone 4 and whatever over the course of 45, 60 minutes. It's more about, first of all, the goal of the class. So are you doing endurance training, interval training? Is it a recovery class? Think about that. Obviously, that will totally change those percentages. And then on top of that, it's also a matter of the recovery after the time spent in the zone. So if you're doing zone 5 intervals, 10-second pushes, you need to make sure you then have a significant amount of recovery after that, so a couple minutes. So that will also change the proportion depending on how many times you do those intervals. Do you see what I mean? So it's really like, first come up with the goal of what you want the class to be, and then you can start to figure out what that looks like. And you'll know, as an experienced rider, you'll know how much is too much and how much is not enough for what the goal is that you're trying to get to. So start super basic if you're new to this, especially explaining it to people. good luck. It's always a challenge. I'm sure you'll do a great job with it, but start with baby steps because it's going to take them a while to understand all that. So get, a basic chart that you can show them to start to educate them on it. And then as you learn more, you'll be more comfortable with the breakdown of how it looks during class. But heart rate, it's reactive to what we're doing, so it's a little bit trickier to keep tabs on. Everyone's going to be a little bit different depending on their fitness level, their size, their gender, all that good stuff. So it's a little bit trickier to coach to, but I'm glad you're starting it because once you get a little bit more practice under your belt, you're going to be a total pro. You can come in here and give us a course on it. Okay, last but not least, Stephanie. She is taking an anaerobic threshold workshop on Saturday. Anything particular to pay attention to? I would say probably the implementation. I think it'll all make sense to you. You're probably familiar with the concept already. The hard part is how to coach riders through it, especially in terms of an anaerobic threshold test, which I'm hoping and I'm sure you'll learn how to do. So really, whenever I take any sort of, and going back to what we were talking about already, any sort of continuing ed, I always go back to, okay, what am I going to bring back to my riders? How is this actually implementable? Is that a word? How can I actually, what am I going to take from this that I can actually use in my job? And it's not going to be, not everything's going to sink in at once. You're probably going to need to review the materials. But if as you're going through it, you're thinking about, okay, how can I actually use this? Then you can ask the questions that will get you there, right? Maybe even see if you can record it, or they'll give you the materials and all that stuff, because hearing this stuff over and over again is the best way we can learn it. So that would be my advice there. Okay, I was gonna answer a bunch of the power questions, but I don't think I even have time for that. So I'm gonna go because I have to bring this little nugget back to my brother. Show you one more time. But anyways, you guys, it is second week of January 2019. I hope everyone's classes are going well. I hope you're starting the new year off strong with a bang. And a reminder, if anyone else besides Mary is interested in beta testing that mentorship program I talked about, 3 months, if you're a newer instructor, you are a perfect candidate. Just shoot me a message. I'll tell you a little bit more about it and we can talk. That's all I got. I will talk to you guys later. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.